The Hacker News Network presents HNN Cast with your host, Space Rogue.
HNN Cast is sponsored by Astaro, simplifying security, and by TrustWave Spider Labs, providing advanced information security services to planet Earth. Become a sponsor. Email sales@hackernews.com.
This is Space Rogue for the Hacker News Network, and this is HNN Cast for the first week of April 2011. The big story this week is really only big in the number of people affected, but really, it's only email addresses. Epsilon, the mass marketing email company that had its databases compromised, revealing email addresses of millions of customers. You probably got at least one notification already from this breach. The email databases of over 50 companies, or 2% of Epsilon's 2,500 clients, have been affected, including Hilton, TD Ameritrade, JP Morgan Chase, the College Board, Best Buy, and numerous others. As for Epsilon, they aren't really saying much and have only released a one-paragraph statement. Phishers are already looking for copies of the database on various underground forums. The Secret Service is reportedly investigating. While this may be a big story based on the sheer size of the breach and the number of companies and people affected, it's still only email addresses, and email addresses are not really supposed to be secret. Yes, this does increase the likelihood of spam and targeted spear phishing attacks, but let's put things into perspective. It's just emails. Of course, this also comes quickly on the heels of the Silverpop breach a few weeks ago. Hopefully, this will cause companies to look more closely at their cloud partners and not just blindly accept what the marketing droids tell them. Who am I kidding? There is full disclosure, and then there is full exposure. The patient database of the Adult Industry Medical Healthcare Foundation, or AIM, which conducts sexually transmitted disease tests for California's porn industry, has been breached. The attacker evidently thought it would be a good idea to expose the test results and personal details of thousands of current and former porn performers. The database matches actors' screen names with real names. The information has been published on what has been described as a WikiLeaks-like website. However, WikiLeaks takes considerable effort to sanitize its data of personal information, while this publisher has done the exact opposite. The dataset goes back about 10 years and includes the names of 15,000 people, whose lives may be ruined from this full exposure. RSA has opened their mouths a little bit and at least explained how the attackers got in, but they still haven't said squat about what the attackers got. Presumably, they got at least part of their secret key mapping database. According to a post on the RSA website, the initial attack vector was an email with an Excel spreadsheet attachment that exploited a zero-day flash vulnerability. Other companies are starting to take advantage of RSA's inaction. Computer Associates is offering a one-for-one swap of secure ID tokens with their Arcourt ID software tokens. Seriously, RSA, you need to open your mouth a little bit. You're just asking for a lawsuit here. And what might be related, EMC, owner of RSA, buys NetWitness, the network monitoring company. Probably about 2 weeks late. They probably should have bought an AV company, but those still suck so bad it's doubtful that would have helped anyway. Before we break, just a follow-up to last week's massive SQL injection attack that was thought to affect millions of sites. Well, now, calmer heads have prevailed, and the current thinking is that Lisa Moon only hit over 1,000 sites. And it really isn't new. It's been around for a few months now, in one form or another. Still, pretty successful SQLI. Lesson learned here? Don't trust Google when counting compromised websites. We'll be back with more HNN Cast right after these messages.
Sorry. All right. You're watching the Hacker News Network.
Bye. 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 Bye.
Welcome back to HNN Cast. 5 members of the online bank theft gang caught in an international investigation called Operation Phry have been found guilty in federal court and now face more than 30 years in jail. Over 100 people were originally arrested by both US and Egyptian authorities back in October of 2009. The gang would use phishing emails to lure their victims, and then runners to siphon the money out of accounts and wire it abroad. While they haven't been getting the big headlines lately, Anonymous is still around. First, Operation Payback is back in action, as DDoS attacks took down the website of Warner Brothers Music as a protest against the company's involvement in the LimeWire lawsuit. And then there's Op Sony, which includes the traditional DDoS attacks against Sony websites, but there is also an anonymous splinter group calling itself Sony Recon that is attempting to gather personal information about Sony employees and their relatives, presumably for more targeted attacks. Op Sony appears to be in retaliation for Sony's involvement against PS3 jailbreakers. 10 years after Solo, aka Gary McKinnon, who is still awaiting extradition from the UK, had his way with numerous NASA computer systems, the NASA Inspector General says that the agency is still woefully insecure. He stated that at least 22 gigabytes of export-controlled data made its way from the GPL to at least 3,000 foreign IP addresses. But don't worry, he says. He says everything will be totally secure by the end of the fiscal year. He doesn't get it. Being secure doesn't have a project completion date. There seems to be a big problem in the security industry lately, the lack of ever-increasing superlatives to describe an attack. We've already used serious, advanced, and sophisticated, and now we can add unprecedented. At least, that's the word Telepacific Networks use to describe an attack on their systems that caused a major disruption in its voice-over IP system. Although based on the company's description of the attack, it sounds like a simple DDoS, hardly unprecedented. A couple of disgruntled employee stories for you. First, an ex-employee of CyberLink Networks, a data hosting firm in Wisconsin, decided to seek revenge on his employer and went on a data wiping rampage, including an entire season of a TV show called Zodiac Island. About 65 gigabytes of data. Of course, CyberLink had no backup, and now the producers of the show are suing them. I guess the guy didn't like the fall lineup. And second, a former IT employee at Gucci has been indicted on 50 separate counts for breaking into the company's computer network, deleting files and emails, and causing an estimated $200,000 in damage. He gained access through a VPN account in the name of a fictional employee, which he used for months before he was caught. That's it for big news. We'll have the quickies later, but first, it's tool time. We'll be right back with tool time and the H&N quickies right after these messages.
Hey, look. That's a cool fabric pattern on that couch.
It'll look nice in the living room, but the cat's just going to shed all over it.
Looking for a new couch? We have great deals this weekend at patternonThatCouch.com.
We have some great fabric patterns here at GreatFabricPattern.com.
We have a special today on non-shedding, hypoallergenic, organic, free-range kittens at FreeRangeKitten.com.
Does everybody know what time it is? Tool time! That's right, Bimford Tools is proud to present
Space Rogue.
That's right, it's tool time again. As always, the updates first. THC-Hydra, the online password brute forcer, Metasploit Pro and Express, Peach, the fuzzing platform, Snort, the free IDS, Maltego, the data mining tool, and the social engineering toolkit, all updated. And as always, be sure to verify your sources. And now, into the fresh. We haven't told you yet about the Enterprise Security API from OWASP, version 2.0 RC11 for Java was just released. Other supported languages include PHP, .NET, Python, Classic ASP, and Cold Fusion. WhisperCore is now out, including support for the Nexus 1 and S models. Also from Whisper Systems this week, WhisperYAFFS, an experimental set of changes that bring encrypted file system support to YAFFS. What is YAFFS? It's yet another flash file system for NAND and NOR flash RAM. Can't say I was aware there were others specifically for flash RAM, but now this one has encryption. Briefly in tool news, if you're looking to make a lateral move to apply your reverse engineering skills on a new platform, be sure to check out UIC's list of disassemblers and debuggers. It makes a great reference. And finally, on a closing note, the vulnerability database now has a submit page. Submit your favorite tool for them to track. As you may have noticed, the vulnerability database is one of Tool Time's many sources for tool news. So promote your tool by submitting it today. That's it for this week's Tool Time. Join us next week for our salute to Tool Time. And now for a few quick stories we found on the net this week. The EU Commission's External Advisory Service and the European Parliament have suffered a, quote, serious cyber attack, and as a result had to shut down external access to email, and staff have been asked to change their passwords. No other information has been released other than that the attack was, quote, serious, but then it seems that all cyber attacks are serious these days, although this one seems kind of goofy to me. Not to be outdone, a recent report says that the Australian Parliament House internal network has also suffered an attack, and that at least 10 federal ministers have had their email compromised, including that of Prime Minister Gillard. Of course, fingers are being pointed at where else? China.
It's those goddamn Mongolian again!
If you recently used the web to renew your membership in the Institute of Electrical and Electronic Engineers, or IEEE, you might want to keep a close eye on your credit report. The credit card information of at least 800 members of the organization was accessed last December. Considering who might have been on that list, credit cards may not have been the ultimate target. Other database breaches this week affected PokerRPG.com and BCWars.com, both of which got popped by good old SQL injection, and both of which had their user databases, including usernames, emails, and passwords, posted to the net. If you're using an Ericom Netopia router, you might want to know that they have a hard-coded backdoor installed that makes it trivial to get a root shell on the device. Not much you can do about it other than stop using it. Since they were bought out by Motorola, don't expect much in the way of updates. And one last quick follow-up to a story we gave you last week about how the FBI was asking for help in deciphering some notes they found on a dead guy back in 1999. Well, the FBI has cried uncle and said they have no way to keep up with the volume of so many emails they are getting, and have asked people to snail mail their possible solutions instead. And that's all the quick stories we found on the net this week. That means it's time for your
ConFu is sponsored by Source Conference, a global security, technology, and business forum.
If you want to go to Germany for the Chaos Communications Camp, think about sharing when you get there. The call for participation has been opened for the event, which takes place on a grassy field in August just outside Berlin. Phase 1 of Ninjacon tickets sold out in about 48 hours. Ninjacon takes place in Vienna, Austria in June. The second phase of ticket sales takes place on April 11th. Notacon 8, which takes place next week in Cleveland, has released some specs for their hardware badges. The new badges will be Arduino compatible, have 6 LEDs, a capacitive center, and an optional alcohol gas sensor. Now that's something every con badge could use. B-Sides is still going crazy all over. Registration and the call for papers is open for Detroit, Connecticut, and Rochester. B-Sides Las Vegas is over half full already, so be sure to sign up quick. B-Sides Chicago has sold out, and so has B-Sides London. Speaking of B-Sides London, H&N will have a camera there, so keep an eye out. We'll have more information about that in the coming weeks, so stay tuned. Oh, and it looks like B-Sides Australia will happen, picking up the slack from OSCERT. B-Sides, security is everywhere. Now for the Stack of Shame, the list of all known open vulnerabilities as cataloged by the Zero Day Initiative. That's it for this week's H&N Cast. I've been your host, Space Rogue, and you've been watching the Hacker News Network. Remember, if you have any news you think we should report, send it to news@hackernews.com. You have been watching H&N Cast. This is Space Rogue for the Hacker News Network.
Fun to do bad things.